everyone. I'm Nala.
And I'm Faith.
And this is the Sirens Den, your fandom podcast where we talk all things pop culture under the sun.
Today on our show, we are welcoming back one of our personal favorite people, Luke Antonio.
Aw, thanks, guys. I'm so happy to be back.
Definitely. And I'm excited to talk about the Oscars. It feels like, a lifetime since the last one. I can't believe that we, were all together for that one.
Yeah, that was one of the last big get-togethers that we had.
Crazy.
This is like the Super Bowl for nerds and filmmakers.
More so filmmakers than nerds. I mean, unfortunately, nerds don't get that much Oscar love. But films out there this year, there's a lot of great representation. Obviously, the quarantine has meant we have been able to watch these movies, and I have really been enjoying the representation that I have been seeing. I'm also intrigued to see how they're going to do it this year, if it'll be virtual, if, who knows? Who knows, but I'm excited.
Yeah,
we'll see next Sunday.
No, I really love the Oscars just because they're fun. I don't always get to catch all of the Oscar movies, especially lately, just due to, events of the world and even like before this, just events in my life. But it's still just kind of a fun time for me to come together with all my film friends and just kind of have this nice cultural talking point together. And then more importantly than that, we always like to place like bets and just,
You were the winner of
I was.
Hey, by like one.
Okay. By one. Last year, Luke had a party for the Oscars. It was an Oscars watch party, and we did a pool for it. And I won it. It was one of the best moments of my life, despite only having seen 2 of the movie.
Lucky.
You saw the ones that mattered, right?
I saw I saw the ones that were important.
That basically carried you throughout the whole thing.
When we're recording this, the Oscars are about 2 weeks out. I have not seen all of the Oscar movies yet. I have seen more than I did last year, though, so I think I'm at a pretty good advantage.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, we better watch out.
Yeah. So bring it, Luke.
Let's go. So I guess we're just gonna skip the news and go right in with the first category, which is Best Actor in a Leading Role. The nominees are Riz Ahmed for Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins for The Father, Gary Oldman for Mank, and Steven Yeun for Minari. I'm gonna send it over to you, Luke. What do you think?
Well, I think this is a pretty clear-cut decision. And the Oscars love to award posthumous awards, so you got to give it to our man Chadwick Boseman, who, even if he hadn't passed, I think he'd still probably deserve this award. He really carried that movie with Viola Davis, and I think even if he was still here, wish he was, but even if he was, I still say he'd deserve it.
What do you think, Faith?
Luke, in this one, I do think that they're going to give it posthumously to Chadwick Boseman because he was amazing in that movie. He did so well just because August Wilson just does really beautiful work in general. And he really understood the work and really understood the piece and just really gave it a lot of heart. So I would love to see it go to Chadwick Boseman. I will, however, say Riz Ahmed in Sound of Metal was devastating. He broke my heart in that movie. So
I still haven't seen that one. It's only because I do not want to have my heart broken because I know, he from the trailer that I saw, he absolutely delivered.
Plus, being a metalhead myself, it's like I just know that's going to hit me really hard. So I've been kind of putting it off.
You guys are missing out. It's a really beautiful story. And then also Steven Yeun, I would love to see him win it. I would love for a Asian American actor to have won one in the 90 something years that this stupid contest has been going on. It's kind of ridiculous that hasn't happened yet. Do I think it's going to be Steven Yeun's year? I do not. But he absolutely deserves that nomination, and hopefully it is just a trend of things going forward. But yeah, Chadwick Boseman.
I'm in, I agree with both of y'all. I think it is going to go to Chadwick Boseman, because he did amazingly in that movie, and I'm just so sad to have the talent so as wonderful as him gone, and the in memoriam of these Academy Awards are gonna hurt.
A lot of good actors and actresses, and
I'm sorry to start off the bat with some depressing stuff, but it's unfortunately the truth.
it's been a hard year.
But I do agree with you as well, Faith. I think Riz Ahmed I'd absolutely love for him to get it, and Steven Yeun as well, because he like Minari also broke my heart. It was such a simple and beautiful movie, and he
I
did
thought
such a good job. And I was like, wait, this is Avatar 1? Amazing.
I thought Minari was so close to being just like a perfect movie. The only thing that threw it off for me was the ending. It just kind of ended a little too abruptly for my personal taste, but yeah, he was fantastic as well. Steven Yeun is awesome.
So I look forward to seeing Riz Ahmed in his role, but I think it's going to go to Chadwick as well. So I guess that's 3 for Chadwick on this, which brings
Yeah.
us into our actor in a supporting role category. The nominees are Sacha Baron Cohen for The Trial of the Chicago 7, Daniel Kaluuya for Judas and the Black Messiah, Leslie Odom Jr. for One Night in Miami, Paul Raci for Sound of Metal, and Lakeith Stanfield for Judas and the Black Messiah.
So you guys will notice that they have both of what I considered the leads of Judas and the Black Messiah as supporting actors, and there's been a lot of talk about that. I will say that what I've found out is that they will do a vote on what constitutes your role in the movie as either lead or supporting, and it seemed like there was a draw between Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield. But
Oh.
that is why, if anybody is wondering.
Huh.
Um,
I mean, I know it's happened before with The Departed. I know that happened with Leonardo DiCaprio and what's his butt?
Mark or
Yeah.
yeah, or Matt Damon.
Yeah. Matt Damon, Mark Wahlberg, they're the same guy.
See,
I don't know if you guys
only one
knew
who gets
that.
them confused.
And they were in the same movie.
And they were both in the same movie, yes.
But yeah, so it has happened before. It's a shame that one of them didn't get land that lead role in the Oscars, but my vote would probably go to Daniel Kaluuya on this, just because he gave such a heart-wrenching performance in that movie, and I really loved this movie. It was very not only entertaining, but showed us a whole other side of history that I hadn't seen before. Not necessarily just because of Black Panther Party, but because of what they did and who they actually affiliated with. And if you haven't seen it, go see it.
Is it still on HBO Max?
It left HBO Max and went into the theater run, but it might be back by now. So you can try HBO. But yeah, that's my vote. Although Sacha Baron Cohen, that was probably the best acting I've seen from him, because it was a dramatic role that was still kind of comedic, that had his usual comedic tone. But I think he's just too much of a wild card in this with the rest of these people.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
I think it's going to be Daniel Kaluuya, as just because he's been doing really, really well in the other award segments that he's been nominated for. He won the SAG award for this, which is usually a pretty good indicator who is going to get the award, just because, the people voting for the SAG awards are usually the same people who are voting for the Oscars. Also, just the Fred Hampton story I'm so glad that it got to be brought to life in film. I will say there was a part of me that wishes they casted people who were a little bit younger, just because Fred Hampton, he was 21 when he died. Like, he was a kid.
Yeah.
And I get why they casted Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield, and they both rocked it, right? But I just, they look like grown men.
Well, and if you watch Trial of Chicago 7, they have a younger Fred Hampton
Mhm.
appear in that movie.
Yeah. But yeah, I do. I think Daniel Kaluuya, and also Daniel Kaluuya has been just, I think, slowly creeping his way towards getting that right. I feel for the past 3 years, he has been in a movie that has been nominated, and he's rocked it out of the park, right?
Oh yeah.
And I don't, was he been nominated before this? I don't think so.
I believe he was
Yeah.
nominated for Get Out.
Yeah, I think he was.
That's right, he was. But yeah, he's been really putting in the work in a bunch of Oscar movies lately. Just over the past few years. So I think this might be his year. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. And just to verify that this is his second nomination, and he was nominated for Get Out. But his performance in Judas, I thought, was even above Get Out. His performance in that.
For sure. Again, gonna have to agree with you. Hopefully we can get some sort of disagreement later on. But I'm also going with Daniel Kaluuya because he, has been getting all the awards for this role. And having seen him and having seen how he, he's British and how he actually talks is not like someone from Chicago. And he just totally, totally transformed into that role. So I'm giving it to him as well.
All right. So the nominees for Best Actress in a Leading Role are Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Andra Day for The United States versus Billie Holiday, Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman, Frances McDormand for Nomadland, and finally Carey Mulligan for Promising Young Woman. All right. So going into this, I think Nomadland, I think that is probably what we're going to be seeing win a lot of awards. And Frances McDormand was really good in that movie. I mean, she's really good in everything that she's been in, right? Like, when have you ever seen Frances McDormand in a role and went, but when have you ever seen Frances McDormand in a role and we're like, oh, she didn't really nail it, that one. But also, I think we need to talk about Carey Mulligan and Promising Young Woman, who was just so phenomenal. And I think it's kind of a toss-up between Carey Mulligan and Frances McDormand. And so I'm gonna go with my heart on this one, and I think it might be Carey Mulligan.
I would love that.
And I've been seeing so much buzz for her performance in that because she was so just perfect in that role. And she just brought this just intensity to it that just really made it something special. So I would love her to get some recognition for Promising Young Woman. And also Promising Young Woman is just a really good story of feminine vengeance, if you will. And I'm always a fan of that.
And
So
and I think although she maybe should win, I think that's the kicker there, is that you got to remember who the Academy is. And primarily the Academy is a bunch of old white men, right? And so I think that that movie is just a little too much of a wild card. I was actually surprised and I was grateful that it got nominated, but I'm not sure that she'll win just because of the movie itself. But yeah, I can tell you that I think I agree with you that she was phenomenal, and it was a really great movie.
I am kind of in a toss-up on this one because, Frances McDormand definitely killed it in Nomadland, and so did Carey Mulligan, and I'm so glad that she's finally getting just like that recognition that she so deserves because she's such a great and subtle actress that gets overlooked a lot. But I also really liked Vanessa Kirby's performance in Pieces of a Woman. It was a hard movie to watch. But I'm thinking, so essentially it starts with like a 20-minute shot, just like a one shot essentially of, her character giving birth. And it is painful to watch. And considering that she doesn't have children, she really made me feel like this was something she's experienced before. But no, it was just complete performance. So and Andra Day as Billie Holiday was also amazing considering that she's a singer first. And this is, I believe, her like acting debut, and she really, really did well. But I'm gonna say Vanessa Kirby on this one. But I'd honestly be happy with any of them winning. They all brought wonderful things to their roles. Our first disagreement. I'm gonna say Vanessa Kirby. You say Carrie Mulligan, Faith, and what about you, Luke?
Yeah, like I said, they're all great. Carrie Mulligan and Andra Day, and yes, this is Andra Day's like big breakout role. She had a voice acting role in Cars 3, and then like
But of course, critically acclaimed
yeah, that
Cars
was a
3.
big Oscar movie. Don't you remember? However, Viola Davis has been getting. She did win the SAG award, and she did. She has been getting a lot of acclaim around her role in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and like I already said, she and Chadwick kind of carried that whole movie. This is such a hard one, and I don't. Frances McDormand, yes, always great, but I feel like I personally have seen her in a more expansive role than No Man Land. I gotta give it to Andra Day, just because she won the Golden Globe. She wasn't nominated for SAG, but that did come out. The SAG Awards did happen before the Golden Globes, and I feel like because of the Golden Globes pushing Andra Day, she's gonna be the one to get it.
I can see
Hey,
it. Well, cool. We'll see who ends up winning.
Yeah, sorry to break up the disagreement, but
No, that was an even more of a disagreement. So
oh well.
we're all on separate pages here. So that brings us into Best Actress in a Supporting Role. The nominees are Maria Bakalova for Borat, subsequent movie film delivery of prodigious bribe to American regime to make benefit once glorious nation of Kazakhstan.
Now you gotta say it like Borat.
Oh no, we're not going there. Glenn Close for Hillbilly Elegy, Olivia Colman for The Father, Amanda Seyfried for Mank, and Yoo Jung Yoon for Minari. Um, I'm I'm gonna start off and I'm gonna give it to Yoo Jung Yoon. I think her performance in Minari just carried. It was truly the backbone of the film. Just as she seemed to be like the true matriarch of the family. Oh, thinking about it makes me sad again. I'm gonna give it to her. She played two different characters essentially in that movie, and they were both so perfect in her delivery.
yeah, I'm with you there. I also think that it's going to be Yoon Yoo Jung. I think she was phenomenal in that movie. She's also just been sweeping awards everywhere. We keep talking about the SAG award being the one to watch, and that's the one that she was the surprise win of that. So I think she
Wow.
might be able to pull that into the Oscars. On top of that, I think that Parasite won huge last year, and I think in just Hollywood and the Academy in general, Korean film and Korean actors and actresses are starting to become a lot more prominent. If she
Mhm.
does win this, she will be the first Korean person to win a acting award at the Academy Awards, and I think she might be the one to do it.
Um, and I am gonna have to also back Yoo Jung Yoon.
Man,
She
we're
was
back to agreeing.
she was great. You will notice that in the supporting category, that our Golden Globe actress, who is Jodie Foster, who won for the Golden Globes, was not nominated. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I think her Yoo Jung Yoon performance was above all of these other people. They're all great actors, but she really just shined. And her arc was probably my favorite one in that whole movie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
As
The thing
well.
to
So
consider with her is the fact that she's a really well established actress. She's been acting since the 70s. She's
Mhm.
like even though like in our little United States we might not really be as familiar with her, in Asia she's a lot more of a big deal. So it would make sense for her to be able to kind of cross that bridgeway.
I love that. Well, we're definitely all rooting for her. Mhm.
All right. Next up, we have. Why did I closed it? Uh. Why did I close it? Yeah.
oh
Uh.
well, Soul's great.
Yes. We have next Best Animated Feature, one of my favorite awards, even though this award makes me more angry than most of the other awards, just because usually the movie I want to win is not the movie that wins. So, and I think this year is going to be another case of that. I will guarantee that it's going to be another case of that, actually.
Which one do you want to win?
So the nominations are Onward, Over the Moon, a Shaun the Sheep movie, Soul, and Wolfwalkers. Soul is going to be the one to take it, but Wolfwalkers deserves it. It is such a beautiful movie. The animation is just gorgeous in a style that you do not get to see a lot of the time, and it is a film that's like really been fought to be made. It's yeah, I have nothing but love for Wolfwalkers, and I would love to see it get a little bit more recognition, but that's not what's gonna happen. Soul's gonna win because it's the I mean, yeah, it is the Pixar. Yeah, the Academy Award loves Pixar. Love Fest. I think there's been one time that a not Pixar movie beat out a Pixar movie. I don't remember what it was, but it happens very rarely. And you know, Soul has just got so much acclaim, and it does have a admittedly really beautiful story. It's a really gorgeously animated. Like when I say that, like I want Wolfwalkers to win and not Soul, it's not because Soul is a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. I'm so tired of Pixar films only winning because they're Pixar films. And especially because I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like Pixar films have kind of dipped in quality lately. And I
No,
feel like
I'm with you.
and I feel like that's because that they know that whatever they're gonna do is gonna be gold. So they're like they do really deep, beautiful stuff, but I feel like there's I want them to be challenged more, and I
Well, I mean, Onward was also
Onward too.
Pixar.
But
Yeah, I thought Onward was really prettily,
mm,
really beautifully animated as well.
The problem with Onward is it just came out too early. It came out, it was still in theaters when COVID hit. So, that's how early it came out. And unfortunately, when movies come out early in the year, they tend to be forgotten about or overlooked because other things have come out since. I'm a big admirer of animation in general, and I think all these movies were great. I even liked Farmageddon. It's you always have the one stop motion movie that'll be nominated. You always have usually always have at least one international animation that's nominated, and you'll always have Pixar in there. That's and DreamWorks if they have something, but and Disney Animation Studios, I guess. Those are just the three. Those are the big ones. I thought Soul was great, and I think it'll win. I did like Over the Moon a lot. I thought that was a beautifully animated movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like Soul's just like you said, because it's Pixar and because it wasn't a bad movie. It was a good movie. It's gonna go to Soul.
I'm unfortunately gonna have to agree as well. I haven't seen Wolfwalkers yet, so I'm glad that it gets glowing reviews. But I have seen their previous film, which was Song of the Sea, that was also nominated, and that was gorgeous animation. So I have no doubt that Wolfwalkers is going to be equally as beautiful. And I would also like to see 2D animation kind of win again. But unfortunately, we live in a 3D world, so I'm gonna have to give it to Soul as well.
and I remembered when the movie that beat Pixar was Into the Spider-Verse, which thank God.
Oh my god, duh.
Well,
Um,
How could we forget? No, yeah.
it beat Incredibles too. Which I will say that year was a really good year for animation, because that was also competing against Isle of Dogs, which was
ooh,
so good.
Mhm.
And
yeah,
I don't know if
stop
you
motion.
guys ever saw Mirai. Really,
No.
No.
really, really beautiful movie by Mamoru Hosoda, who does, I don't know if you've seen Wolf Children or Summer Wars. He's a really good visual director, and he actually has a
Mhm.
film coming out like in like the next
Yeah,
month or
what
so.
called Belle? Is it I believe it's called Belle. And it's like a Beauty and the
Yeah,
Beast story.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
saw the trailer for that and I was like, this looks gorgeous.
Also, fun fact, he is the original director of the first Digimon the movie. And
Beautiful.
Yeah, he does. Also, if you guys ever get, I could talk about him as a director. I love his animation so much. Summer Wars. It came out in 2009. It is probably one of my favorite animated movies. And he just does really cool, creative, emotional stories. Wolf Children still makes me cry. We're not, but we're talking about the Oscars, and he's not even nominated for one this year. So, but next year, Belle's probably going to be nominated. So hopefully, we'll be coming back to that, and I can geek out about how much I love him as a director next year.
That would be super awesome.
Along with
I
2D,
love.
along with 2D animation, I would like to see a stop motion win one of these days.
Right?
I think the last one that won was like a Wallace and Gromit movie, but that was like decades ago.
Yeah. Last year I was really hoping for Missing Link to win. For that very reason, just because Leica puts so much love into their works, and they get no love for it. And they do some of the most beautiful animation out there, and just the amount of time that it takes for them to do their stuff, it's
insane.
Like I said, the animation category makes me really mad every year.
Well, and I feel like in general, people just always like take animation for granted because they just think that it's for kids, or they think that it doesn't take as much work as a live action movie does, when that's not the case at all.
Wrong. Well, let's not dwell on the negativity of the best animation category and move on to best cinematography. The nominees are Sean Bobbitt for Judas and the Black Messiah, Eric Messerschmidt for Mank, News of the World, or Darius Wolowski for News of the World, Joshua James Richard for Nomadland, and Pheidon Papamichael for The Trial of the Chicago 7. What say you, Luke?
I'm gonna give it to Mank, purely because of that. The storytelling element with the cinematography I thought was top notch.
Faith, what do you think?
So, Mank is one of those movies that I have not seen yet in the whole thing. I've heard a lot about it, and I want to watch it just because I feel like as a film student I have to, But honestly, Nomadland is one of those movies that really, when I saw it, I was like, okay, yeah, that was a good movie. And then it just kind of stuck with me. And I kept thinking about elements of it and just story. And because it's kind of, Chloe Zhao did kind of the Italian neorealism thing, right? But we'll get to that later. One of the things that did stand out to me is I thought that cinematography was so gorgeous. It was so simple, but it really just every shot just felt so beautifully composed, and it all fit together so well. And a lot of just the things that they did in there were just so simple but really, really effective. And of the other movies that I have seen on the list, the cinematography was good, but it didn't stand out to me nearly as much. So I think I'm going to give it to Nomadland.
I'm going to agree with you. I think Nomadland was essentially Golden Hour, the movie. So, who doesn't love just nice sunsets? So I'm also gonna give it to Nomadland as well, because it was a visually beautiful movie. And it needed to be, because it was a character study piece, and we really didn't have much else to do except for experience the same nature that she was. And I thought it was very effective. So my vote is for Nomadland. So we got 2 for that and 1 for Mank.
So moving on to more fun visual elements, we have costume design. And our nominations for this one are Alexandra Byrne for Emma, Anne Roth for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Trisha Somerville for Mank, Bina Daigler for Mulan, and Massimo Contini Parini for Pinocchio.
Say that 7 times fast.
That's a really good Italian name. Can we just talk about that?
Yeah, tell me about it.
I feel like I have to do the stereotypical Italian hand thing,
It's okay, I won't be offended.
So I guess I'll start off and say I like the costumes in Mulan, but I wasn't whoa, because unfortunately a lot of the costumes were just uniforms. And the really cool intricate pieces that we did get were from very minor characters, so that was a bummer. I haven't seen Emma yet, but I am a sucker for Regency, so and, from what I've seen of the trailers and, um, the look of it, I think it's gonna rely heavily on these vibrant costumes. So I'm actually gonna give it to Emma for me. I mean, the other ones were great as well. I mean, I did like, Amanda Seyfried's character had one costume in Mank that I was like, okay, cool. It's a costume in a movie. And I haven't seen Pinocchio yet, so I'm gonna give it to. I mean, I haven't seen Emma either, but I'm gonna give it to her. Good old Jane Austen. What do you think, Luke?
Well, first, we haven't talked a lot about snubs, but I gotta say, Jingle Jangle was Jingle Jangle was snubbed in this category because those costumes were fire.
You know what? That's fair.
And they were so creative, and they were so like just outstanding.
Fun.
I'm really surprised that Jingle Jangle got snubbed in costumes. I think it's always a safe bet to go with the period piece that always wins, which is Emma. I know there's been some cloud around Black Bottom winning. I thought Mank was also along the same lines of Mulan, where it's just kind of standard. And I haven't seen Pinocchio, but I'm gonna give it to Emma just because it's that's the time period that almost always wins.
I am actually going to disagree from the pack from this one. I think it's actually going to go to Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I think it's kind of what you guys are saying. Like, period pieces are usually just a shoo-in for this stuff, right? Because it's period pieces, it's corsets and giant dresses and blah 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 blah. But Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is also a period piece, and I have not seen Emma yet. That was one of the movies I was actually really excited to see last year,
Same.
just because I love that actress and the trailer was funny. Uh,
Yeah.
I haven't. I didn't see it in theaters, obviously, because the corona hit, and I didn't really want to watch it at home because I'm not gonna lie, guys, I hate that book. I hate that book so much. I was like, if I'm not gonna get this in a theater experience, I'm not gonna bother. So I'm a little anti-Emma. I have some anti-Emma bias, even though that was a movie I was really excited to see. But I thought the costumes in Ma Rainey's Black Bottoms were just really, really solid. Like, everyone had such a unique, distinctive style that was so just core to their character. Just it was a little bit like it was a period piece, but it was still subtle, but it was still distinctive enough in a way that everyone had this really unique design and look about them, and it all came together to look so beautifully. Also, fun fact: if Anne Roth wins this, she will be the oldest person to have won an Oscar for this category
Oh,
at
wow.
the age of 89, which I think would be
Oh.
cool. Also, just I think that this is a really really good movie that I hope does get to see some more awards trickle in with it.
Cool little
That's
piece
fair.
of trivia. I didn't know.
Well, we'll see. That brings us into our next category, which is directing.
Oh, that's right down your path.
Indeed. The nominees are Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round, David Fincher for Mank, Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, and Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. I'll send it over to you, Luke, first. But I just want to say I am happy to see two women on this list. I feel like that's like a first.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting. It kind of gives makes their chances greater. But what do you think, Luke?
If they want to go with the same old, it's going to be David Fincher, but I don't think they will. I've also seen him do better. No offense, David, if you're listening. What I don't know you, but if you're an Academy voter, you're going to be thinking, okay, well, what have I seen this person do? If they're a recognizable name like David Fincher, that's just human nature. You're gonna think about other work as well, and I don't think he has it this year. I think the clear cut winner is Chloe Zhao. She also worked with real nomads in the movie, which gives her an edge. because their performances didn't come off like real people. They came off solid in their performances, which you would leave up to Chloe Zhao. Promising Young Women's just again, it's too wild. Too much of a wild card. If Chloe Zhao doesn't get it, I think Lee Isaac Chung will get it. But I'm giving my vote to Chloe.
I am right there with you, Luke. I also am going to give it to Chloe Zhao. I kind of what I was talking about earlier, just Nomadland is one of those movies that I keep thinking back on, just because it was such a thoughtful film. Like there was so much care that went into it, and it was almost like a meditation in a film, right? Um, and it just had a really unique style that just really stood out from everything else on the list. Not that like everything else on the list that I've seen was really, really well directed, to be fair. But like, and I'm also just a really big sucker for that kind of Italian neo-realism style where they do use non-actors and they do use real people who are there. And that's something that's been working phenomenally for movies forever, right? Like The Bicycle Thief. Same deal where they use non-actors and just use people who are actually in those kind of situations. I thought that Nomadland also just had this beautiful honesty to it. And just it was so unique in how it was made. Like it was just so distinctive of her style and just had a lot of character to it. So I think yeah, Chloe Zhao, I want her to win it.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna be agreeing with y'all again. I would also say, I was gonna say Lee Isaac Chung, but then you reminded me that yeah, Chloe Zhao did work with actual nomads. And yeah, I was thoroughly surprised at how it's a very interesting movie because it she builds up these nomads to be these characters and also, breaks down Frances McDormand to be this nomad. And it's really it was really well done. I was really impressed with the performances in Nomadland. So I'm gonna give it to Chloe too, which would be amazing because she would be the second woman.
I think, right?
Yeah, she would be.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the first woman of color, but the second woman in this 93
Well, and you know what else would be
year
cool about her
history.
winning isn't she directing the Eternals?
Yeah, she is the
So she'll
director
be
of the
Yes.
going right
Eternals.
from this
Mhm.
Academy Award winning director into the Eternals, which would be great for the rest of us nerds.
Yeah, hopefully the Eternals brings home some Oscars to Marvel finally.
Yeah, it's a great ensemble cast.
But yeah, Faith, take us into our next category.
All right, next we have documentary feature with the nominees of Collective, Crip Camp, The Mole Agent, My Octopus Teacher, and Time. So Luke, take it away. What do you think is gonna be the documentary to end all documentaries this year?
So this is one of the categories I'm still working on. I've watched two of these. Crip Camp and Time are the two that I've seen so far. Crip Camp was produced by the Obamas, which is pretty dope.
That would give
Yeah.
it something in common with the film that won last year. Is I think the second one that the second documentary that the Obamas have produced.
It
True.
is. Yeah, they're going from politicians to filmmakers.
Wow.
The reverse Reagan and the opposite, the polar opposite. But I know that there's been a lot of clout around Time. I had some problems with the angle they took on that documentary. I think it was a fine concept. If you don't know what it's about this black couple that robbed a bank, and she took a plea bargain. He did not, and he's serving 60 years in prison now. The angle that they were trying to go for was that the penal system is not fair to African Americans, but they did not show. I think what would have made it stronger is if they'd showed a white person who had robbed a bank and gotten off with less time, and that would have strengthened the argument more. But they didn't do that, and it just came off like they robbed a bank. Now he's in prison, and it wasn't as strong as I thought. But I think that is your forerunner amongst these documentaries based off of what I've seen, the research I've done. So I'm gonna give it to time.
I'm going to actually give it to Crip Camp. Even though this would be like if the second year in a row to give it to something the Obamas produced. I don't know if that really stands in the Academy, but I've yet to finish Crip Camp as of right now. But what I have seen has been really inspiring and just like eye-opening to see. It's essentially about a camp for people with disabilities, and then how that camp and that experience for these people led to the human rights acts on people with disabilities. And you see their struggle and their want to just make the world more accessible to people like them. And that's unfortunately something that we're still dealing with in this day and age. So I think I'm gonna give it to Crip Camp because it was a very poignant look at to things that are still very much a problem for so many people right now.
Yeah, this one is hard for me. It's really kind of a toss up between Time and My Octopus Teacher for me. Time for all the reasons that Luke mentioned. It's been just getting really critically acclaimed. It was a really powerful story. But I I'm a sucker for a good feel good story. I especially in this last year, over a year now. Uh, I want things to be happy about. I want just one thing to focus on that isn't doom and gloom and awful. And My Octopus Teacher was just a charming, beautiful film that I am going to put my money on that one. And also, just for the sake of not agreeing with Luke for all of these, because if we're in a competition, I feel like we should have more stakes, you know?
Sure.
So I'm gonna put my money on the Octopus Boy
The
and go
Octopus
with My
Teacher
Octopus
has
Teacher.
gives me a similar feel to Free Solo, where it's
Yeah,
just
that's the other thing too. It has kind of a little bit more of an adventure. I feel it can appeal to a more broader audience
mhm.
because the other thing about the Academy, I don't know who's in the Academy. It's kind of just the ominous thing that we call a group of rich white people in Hollywood, right? Um, but I don't know how many of them are big documentary people, right?
Mhm.
But I feel like My Octopus Teacher is one of those documentaries that you don't have to be a documentary person to enjoy it because it's almost like a really charming planet Earth, right? Everyone loves planet Earth. Everyone loves nature. Octopuses are cool. That's my argument.
Octopi, I believe, is the
Yes, octopi.
Octopusinimuses.
Octop oct-
Ooh, I actually have a lot to say about this next one.
Yeah, go for it. Take it
Next
away.
Next up on the list is we have our documentary short subjects, so our shorter documentaries. And on this conversation, we have Colette. A concerto is a conversation. Do not split. Hunger Ward and a love song for Natasha. So real quick, Luke, take it away. What are you feeling with this one?
I have not seen any of these shorts yet. Where did you watch them?
So I've actually only seen one of these shorts, and it was Colette, because the filmmakers came to my school on Zoom. They came to Zoom class.
Cool. That's
And we
cool.
watched the film, and we got so I'm actually the reason I have so much to say of this one because I'm biased because the filmmakers who made this are really really cool people, but also just it's a really beautiful story. Colette, she and it has a lot of things that I think do appeal to the Oscars, right? So Colette is about a woman. She was a Holocaust survivor. Her brother, she lived in France, and her family, they were revolutionary fighters, and her brother got captured and ended up dying in one of the camps. And the short is just kind of her going to the camp for the first time to just kind of like reflect on her brother. And she has a lot of survivor's guilt because her brother was caught and she wasn't. And in the meantime, she's kind of telling the story and taking it's this museum. I forget the specific thing she does, but she's this young woman who's putting together a project where she's trying to get pictures and just the stories of everyone who died in this camp. And she reached out to Colette that way, and that's how they like met, and that's kind of what they reflected on. But it was just a really beautiful story. It was a really interesting character piece about Colette. She's a really cool woman. She's just like really tough and kind of in your face. And they were really also really respectful of like her and her emotions, and you could tell that the whole time. My favorite part about it though is there's this really really cool shot at the end where it's music and it's a handheld camera and it just zooms in onto Colette and this other woman and a picture of Colette's brother. And I found out through the filmmakers that that was actually a shot that Colette directed herself. They wanted her input on what to make the end of the movie, and so she came up with the shot herself and did all the directing for that one, which I think is cool. So that is my long winding spiel for Colette is great. You guys should watch it. I hope it wins.
I have heard that Concerto is a Conversation is a really good one. And I know that I've seen some predictions on that. Having not seen these, I got to go with that one
Oh.
purely because of what I've read.
And also, having not seen them, I will go with Colette, because from what I've heard, it sounds like a very moving little short doc.
I just linked it in the Discord, by the way. It The Guardian ended up buying it because the filmmakers, once they kind of did their festival circuit, they wanted it to reach as broad an audience as possible. And the Guardian was like, we want to play it as part of our documentary series, and that's just
wow.
a really accessible way to watch short films, right?
Very
So
cool.
Awesome.
yeah, that's there for you guys.
So that'll bring us into our next category of film editing. The nominees are The Father, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Before we get into this, I just want to say that Chloe edited Nomadland. Go her. That, I resonate with that as someone who has had to go and edit my own work. It's rough. I hate it because you just spend more time to mull over all the
Right?
mistakes you made.
I have so much respect for directors who are able to kind of edit on their own.
Feel that.
I guess I will just give out my nominee, which I think will be Sound of Metal. Again, I haven't seen it yet, but from what I have seen, it I believe involves a lot of him experiencing his loss of hearing, and just transitioning seamlessly in and out of that kind of experience is something that you have to be that has to be compelling on screen. So my vote is for Sound of Metal.
Out of these, the ones that I have seen are Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, and Trial of Chicago 7. And I gotta say, the Trial of Chicago 7 was probably the one that kept me on my seat the most. The pacing is really on point. And I feel like Sorkin's really learned from his mentor Fincher on how to tell a story, and I think it really paid off in the Trial of Chicago 7. I think it was a big upgrade from Molly's Game. And yeah, that movie also resonated with me a lot, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I think a big part of that was because of the editing. You have a lot of different storylines going on, and they weave it together really well. So I got to give it to Trial of Chicago 7.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm going to fall into the Team Nala camp here, and I'm also going to give it to Sound of Metal, just because it was. It's the story about a drummer who slowly loses his hearing, and I don't know how much sound design is taken into account with film editing, or if that's just more looked into, or if all the sound elements are purely looked into for the sound category of it. But oh my gosh, like the way they told a story in this film, just with they told a story about a man losing his hearing, and like they reflected that in the way that they did the sound design. There's this really like heartbreaking sequence where he is tapping on a slide with a kid, and the way that they made it so we're hearing what he's hearing, and so it's kind of this really muted, muffled, but you kind of slowly hear this rhythm come in. And that was just such a, I keep thinking back to that sequence, and just the way that they did it and just how much the editing and sound design went into that. So I think it's going to be Sound of Metal. If it's not sound design is purely if is taken into account at all. Which I feel like it would. That's such a key part of editing. Like I know sound and sound editing. I don't know. I'm not in the academy yet, so I don't know their secrets. But Sound of Metal is what has my vote.
Well, in this next category is Best International Feature Film, and the nominees go to Another Round from Denmark, Better Days from Hong Kong, Collective from Romania, The Man Who Sold His Skin from Tunisia, and Quo Vadis Aida from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Let me try.
Herzegovina.
First try. Okay, one more time. And Quo Vadis Aida from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Got it.
I've never heard of that place.
Yeah, Luke, take it away. What do you think?
Okay, who I think should win is Better Days. That movie was phenomenal.
Oh,
It was so freaking good. And Faith, if you haven't watched it, you especially need to watch this movie. You will love it.
goodness.
But I know Denmark has a big history with the Oscars, and Mads Mikkelsen is in it. And if the Academy hasn't seen some of these international films, they will have watched it because of Mads and because it's from Denmark. Like I said, Denmark has a record. Even though I think it should go to Better Days, I think it's going to go to Another Round.
I'm just gonna jump in and disagree. I think it's gonna go to Better Days. I think it was such a sweet and simple story that told a really, poignant message, and it was executed really well. And like I said, or I didn't say it, but the last 15, it was literally essentially the post-credit scene of this movie. And I was like, okay, like it tugged at my heartstrings, but I didn't actually cry until literally this post-credit scene. And then just the water gates were just flooded.
I will also point out that Better Days is Hong Kong, and if the Academy doesn't want to piss off China because China is a big part of the industry, then they won't go for Better Days. That's just a thought that unfortunately
That's fair.
is part of the reality.
I have not seen any of the international films this year, which also, thank God they didn't put Minari on this
Mm-hmm.
at Golden Globes. But I think it's going to be Another Round because Mads Mikkelsen is an acclaimed actor, but also it was directed by Thomas Vinterberg. Like I think it's going to be a tough one to beat. It has so much acclaim behind it, just through its who's made it and who's starring in it. And yeah, for that reason, purely because I think Thomas Vinterberg is the one directing it, and there's so much respect for him in the industry as well. I think it's going to go to Another Round.
That's fair.
Is he the one that did there was another Danish film that came out years ago? Yeah, The Hunt. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was
Also,
another.
Thomas Vinterberg, I think, might be pretentious because of that, but I still think he's going to win. Woo!
All right. So that is 1 for Better Days and 2 for Another Round.
But seriously, Faith, go watch.
I will check it out.
In this next category is makeup and hairstyling. The nominees are Emma, Hillbilly Elegy, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, and Pinocchio. What do you think, Luke?
I think it's going to go to Ma Rainey's Black Bottom for their transformation of Viola Davis, and also, Chadwick's look in that also. Yeah, I think I got to give it to Ma Rainey.
Good stuff.
I'm going to give it to Pinocchio on this one, just because I guess they did like practical effects for him to make him look like wood.
Ooh.
Which I'm, always a fan of. So if Suicide Squad can win this category, maybe a Pinocchio movie can win. So
we have to mention Suicide Squad.
Always. Because that will forever be a big shock to me.
I mean, that was a horrible movie, but like the hair
a single killer crop.
Like everyone looked cool at least,
Yeah.
except the Joker. Except the
Yeah.
Joker.
Yeah.
But he was
But
barely in there. But yeah, it's kind of what I was saying with costuming. I really wanted to go to Ma Rainey's Black Bottom just because I think that movie looked amazing, and I'd love to see it get some recognition. And again, all the characters were just so beautifully distinctive, but like really it mashed together so well. So yeah.
Awesome. So we got 2 for Ma Rainey and 1 for Pinocchio. Faith, do you want to take the next category, which is
Yeah.
music?
Next, we have music, the original score. And our nominees are Da Five Bloods by Terence Blanchard, Mank by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, Minari by Emily Mosseri, News of the World by James Newton Howard, and Soul by Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, and John Batiste.
I gotta give it to America's sweetheart, John Baptiste. I love that man. He is the most wholesome, sweet, loving person ever. And I think that team up with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross was totally unexpected. I don't think we ever would have paired those people together. But it completely worked, and it made, if anything carried that movie, it was their score. And not to say that the movie itself wasn't good, but it's about music. It's like, that's, if that music failed, the movie would have failed.
I'm
So
gonna
absolutely.
yeah, I'm gonna also agree, just because I love a good jazz soundtrack, and that's, what Soul was essentially about, so I'm gonna give it to Soul as well, and again, way to go, Trent Reznor, for just being like, we're gonna win some Oscars now. I'm gonna be a film composer. It's gonna be great."
The man's already been covered by Johnny Cash, and now he's winning Oscars.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be Soul. It's like you said, that music really carried that movie, and it was had a lot of soul to it, you could say.
Oh.
Aha! Aha! Everyone's made that joke. We had to do it at least once.
Of course.
So cool, all 3 for Soul. Would you like to bring us into our original songs as well?
Yes, I would. So we have music for Best Original Song. We have Fight for You from Judas and the Black Messiah. Hear My Voice from The Trial of the Chicago 7. Husavik from the Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga. I'll See Scene from The Life of Head. And Speak Now from One Night in Miami.
I'm surprised that they nominated Husavik. It was a really beautiful song, but I just did not expect it to be anywhere on their radar considering, the rest of the movie. But yeah, that one's not gonna win. I think it's going to be Fight for You. Just because it's, these poignant and, call to action type songs tend to win when no like Disney songs are nominated.
Mm-hmm.
Yet another category that Jingle Jangle was snubbed from,
Mhm.
which I'm upset about because those songs were awesome. I love the song Fight for You, but Eocene did win the Golden Globe. So I gotta give it to Eocene.
Yeah.
Is it Eocene or EOC?
EOC, I believe.
EOC.
I think it's either I think it's gonna be Speak Now from One Night in Miami. I think because it also has the benefit of Leslie Odom Jr., right? Who got his start with
true.
who got his start with Hamilton. We kind of expect music from him a little bit, and it would be kind of cool to see him get recognition for that one. That being said, I love Husavik. That stupid high note that Rachel
I
McAdams
know.
gets.
I feel that.
And it's also like it's a really heartfelt song, but it's also just
Mm.
ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And even though that I actually think it's gonna be Speak Now from One Night in Miami, I'm gonna go with Husavik. I'm gonna wild card it. Because that Rachel McAdams is so funny. And
I
that
don't know if
song is
she was the one actually singing
I don't
it.
think
She's not
I
on
don't
here.
think so. I don't think she was the one actually singing it. Well, because I think it's nominated by who wrote the song, not who sang it. I think.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, I'm gonna wild card it. I'm gonna say Husavik, even though I think it's actually gonna say Speak Now.
That's so good. So let's move on to production design. The nominees are The Father, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, News of the World, and Tenet. I mean, yeah, Luke, take it away.
Even though the costumes were kind of basic in Mank, the whole production design overall was really good. And again, I feel like the production design kind of mirrored Citizen Kane. And you saw certain elements that like maybe inspired Mank to write the screenplay and like come up in the movie. So I thought that was clever that they used the production design to mirror the actual story of Citizen Kane. So I got to give it to Mank, even though I am currently making a western, so News of the World really spoke to me as well. But Mank, I got to give it to Mank.
I'm gonna have to agree, and yeah, the sets were definitely larger than life. Not so much the costumes, but the sets felt like a Citizen Kane type level of extravagance. So I'm also gonna give it to Mink.
Yeah, I feel like Mank is a really safe bet for this one. Just again, I have not seen Mank yet, but I do know that they've recreated that stupid castle in Citizen Kane like perfectly. Um,
Xanadu.
yeah, they have you have kind of going back to period pieces. It's a period piece that usually gets it a lot of points. Also, just we all know how much Hollywood loves
Blow its own horn.
to suck its own banana, as it were. So
I mean, you're not wrong.
Uh, so I think that one's a pretty good safe bet though. But like the father was really interesting, right? Like the way that the set was just constantly warping and changing with the story. Like I feel like they did some really clever and really good artistry there. So I think I'm actually gonna go break away from, and again, just so I can like have a few different ones from like Luke so we can make this kind of an interesting competition. I think I'm gonna go with the father in this one.
All right, 2 for Mink, 1 for the father. Faith, would you like to take us through the short film categories we've got?
Yes. Short film animated, we have Burrow, Genius Lossy,
I think it's Genius Loki.
Genius Loki, If Anything Happens, I Love You, Opera, and Yes People.
So we have actually had we've been fortunate
Pleasure.
enough to watch these. They're
All
pretty
of them were
good.
really good. And they're all very different animated. They're all really different
Mhm.
animation styles. If Anything Happens, I Love You, which I think will win because it's a little more relevant. That one is about two parents who lose a child in a school shooting, and that's the hand drawn one that kind of that's along the lines of Dear Basketball. So yeah, it's real relevant. It was good animation, and it had a harrowing message to it. So I gotta give it to If Anything Happens, I Love You. If that wasn't there, I would definitely give it to Opera.
Yeah.
But
I agree. I'm with that as well. So my vote's also for If Anything Happens, I Love You, because yeah, it tells a story that speaks to what's happening very, very currently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in the same camp of A, just because I miss hand animation. I want us to bring it back. Anything to push the hand animation agenda. But more than that, again, what you guys were saying, it's definitely the most relevant of the things. I think, especially because voting has started happening in the last 3 weeks.
Mhm.
Which I'm happy. Well, I'm happy that it's a film that talks about that subject and talks in a very nuanced way. So I would really like to see it win. Even though if it does win, I don't think it's going to be for the animation so much for the Hollywood saying that they stood up to gun violence by recording this film. It won. You know,
I feel like the animated short category is always among the stronger of the shorts.
yeah.
They also always have good like recommend highly commended films that unfortunately don't make it. But if you get a chance to see the short animations, you also get to see extra bonus shorts, which I always appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So we are all on the boat of If Anything Happens, I Love You. So take us to our live action category.
All right. In the live actions, we have Feeling Through, The Letter Room, The Present, Two Distant Strangers, and White Eye.
My personal vote is going to be for Two Distant Strangers because, again, it is very, very poignant and relevant, especially in the most recent weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, over the last year, really.
Yeah, over the last year, but again, it's been reinforced these past few weeks. So my vote is on Two Distant Strangers.
And they really did a sweet thing at the end where they listed all of the African Americans who have been shot and killed by police officers, which was really poignant. I loved the concept. I think they could have gone this with the story in different ways, and I loved the way that they went with it for Two Distant Strangers. However, I know that there is a lot of clout behind The Letter Room, and because it has Oscar Isaac in it, and maybe I gotta give it to The Letter Room. I also always figure in that the entire Academy doesn't watch every film, and they're gonna see Oscar Isaac and they're gonna read a synopsis and they're gonna vote on that.
Yeah. I see. I think if this week hadn't been what it was, I would be following into that letter room camp. But I think it just happened. The fact that it's 2 weeks before the academies, where those last like voting is currently happening and being decided, and people are making those decisions, and I think just that's definitely the prominent conversations here. Also, I don't want the letter room to win because I don't like the precedent that would set.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, because it's kind of a star-powered short film, and one of the things that's been kind of that I love about the short films is that it really gives a chance to really small-time filmmakers who are nobodies to get their chance in the limelight. And I feel like if this A-list actor short film is just going to come in and win, then every like film studio is just going to be like, oh, we're gonna make short films with our A-listers, and that's not gonna happen anymore, right? Like we're no longer gonna be seeing short films from Palestine and Israel, right? And also just it was a really just well done film. And can we also talk about that Joey Badass is like a good actor, like a really good actor?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I want
yeah.
him to be in more things. I want the credit Joey Badass. I want and somewhere down the line for him to win an Oscar and for them to say, and the Oscar goes to Joey Badass.
That would be great.
Yeah,
All
he
right,
was
cool.
phenomenal.
So we are one for the letter room and 2 for Two Distant Strangers. Cool. So in our next category, it's sound. The nominees are Greyhound, Mank, News of the World, Soul, and Sound of Metal.
Wow, they finally combined sound mixing and
I guess so. I guess
sound
they
recording.
took off one of the categories.
For me, I mean, the premise of Sound of Metal is all around sound, and from what I've heard, it is a sound movie.
Yep.
So that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree on that as well. Giving it to Sound of Metal.
Yeah, kind of. I went on my whole spiel about how the sound design on that movie is just so phenomenal. It should win. It better win.
Dope.
I do find it interesting that they nominated an animation for sound. You don't see that very often.
That is true. And I mean, Soul was also a very sound-based movie, so who knows? Pixar could pull it off.
Yeah, but probably not.
So in our next category, it's visual effects. The nominees are Love and Monsters, The Midnight Sky, Mulan, The One and Only Ivan, and Tenet. I'm gonna give it to the one and only Ivan. Those animals were one of the most lifelike renditions of CG animals that I've seen, probably ever. It really did not feel animated, which was the impressive part.
I'm gonna break away from the pack in this one, and I think I'm gonna give it to Tenet. It's Christopher Nolan. It's a visual spectacle. It was like the one blockbuster theater movie of the summer. And it looked really cool. It so I think it's gonna go to Tenet.
And you bring up a good point. Nolan was one of the people who tried to save the theater industry this last year. And the Academy might take that into account. But I do think I gotta go with Tenet as well.
Awesome. Faith, would you like to bring us into our writing categories?
Oh, yes, I would. So first up, we have writing adapted screenplay, and our nominees are the Borat sequel. It has a really long title. I don't want to read it. We have Borat subsequent movie film delivery of producer's bride to the American regime for making benefit. The second Borat movie. The Father by that's by Sacha Baron Cohen, Anthony Hunt. There's like 12 different names on the Borat screenplay. Oh my god.
Yeah, there's so many.
The Father by Christopher Hampton and Florian Zeller. Nomadland by Chloe Zhao. One Night in Miami by Kemp Powers, and The White Tiger by Ramin Barani. All right, Nala, take us away.
Yeah,
What's speaking to you writing wise?
So I think probably Nomadland is going to be one of those ones that sweeps in terms of these categories. And I think adapted screenplay is going to be one of them as well. I'm just not seeing any of the other ones as being like, except for The White Tiger. I really did like the way they adapted the book into a narrative movie format. So I would say if not for Nomadland, I'd say that one, but mine is on Nomadland. And again, way to go, Chloe, for just being one woman powerhouse. And what about you, Luke? What do you think?
See, I don't think Nomadland really relied on screenplay as much as some of these other ones. It's not going to go to Borat. The White Tiger really did take me by surprise. It was a good look into the caste system in India, and it was really well written. But I do, as much as I'd want that to win, I think Nomadland probably will win, just because it's Nomadland and that's all the talk and rage.
Eternals. Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think it's gonna be Nomadland, and it was a really unique adaptation from the source material. It was this kind of woman's biography, and I think she managed to make something that was really beautiful and reflective from that. So yeah, I think Chloe Zhao.
Cool. So 3 for Nomadland.
Woo woo.
And to our next writing category.
All right, we have original screenplay for writing, and the nominees are Judas and the Black Messiah, Minari, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Luke, take it away. What do you think is going to win this one?
This is a good category. I think I'm going to go with Chicago 7, though.
I am going to go with. I'm actually going to give it to Minari. Because I haven't seen a movie like this, a movie about, farmers from Korea wanting to, just live out the American dream. And I thought the plant and payoff of the Minari and like what it stood for, and the characters it represented was really beautiful. So my vote's going to be for Minari.
Writing, so yeah, I got to give it to Promising Young Woman. I think Luke does bring up a good point in that it is a little bit of a wild card, and there's probably a lot of people in that Academy room who are like, uncomfortable by the concept, but at the same time, we have been seeing a changing academy over the past couple years. They have opened their membership to a lot more people. That they've really tried to diversify their membership a little bit more. And also, I think it was just the best written of all of them. It was such a really just on your edge story. It was just immaculately crafted. And it was also just a really powerful story, and I would love to see Emerald Fennell get the rightful recognition that she does for it. And all of these, and also that isn't to say all of these are fantastic screenplays. All of these were written super duper well, but I gotta go with Promising Young Woman. I believe in it. I believe.
I agree. I would be happy with any of these winning. They were all really fantastic.
Awesome. So we've got one for Promising Young Woman, one for Minari, and one for Trial of the Chicago 7. So that brings us to our final category of the episode, the Best Picture nomination. We have The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. I don't know about y'all, but like, is this a lot of movies in this category? Has it been this many movies?
About this many.
Yeah, I think it's usually. I think there was one point in time when it was like 10.
Huh.
So,
I guess it's just me then. So Luke, take it away.
looking down the list, I'm gonna say right off the bat that's gonna be Nomadland, but I think all these movies earned their right here. Like I don't feel like there's a single movie in this list that doesn't belong in this list. Even though I am 90% sure it's gonna be Nomadland. And I got to give it to Anthony Hopkins for 2 years in a row being in a Best Picture movie. Last year he was in The Two Popes. I love that man. He is, and like you said, Faith. I think the Academy is changing some. I don't think they're gonna toot their own horn for Mank, like they would have maybe a few years ago. I don't think Aaron Sorkin is quite there yet to Best Picture level, but if he keeps going at the rate he's going, he'll get there. Minari maybe deserves it, in my opinion, but I think it's going to be Nomadland. Judas also deserves it, but I'm going with Nomadland.
And I'll have to agree with that as well, because it did win the Golden Globe for Best Picture, which shocked Chloe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Nomadland, again, she is just a powerhouse, and she clearly brought something really good. So I'm gonna agree with that. What say you, Faith?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm with you guys. I think it's gonna be Nomadland. It was such a unique film. I think it really stands out among all of these, at least the ones I've seen. Just in how it tells its story, and I just really want the Best Picture to go to a woman, please.
Mhm.
That it's been going on for 93 years. Can we?
Can we
Um,
please?
So yeah, I gotta give it to our girl Chloe. I'm rooting for Nomadland. I would love for that to win.
Yes. Well, we'll find out in due time. The Oscars are on April 25th. That was a lot of fun. I'm excited to get talking about the Oscars again. It feels like some return to normalcy.
Yeah, I was a little worried that there wouldn't even be an Oscars this year.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we have streaming services to rely on, and the Academy is finally awakened to
I
that.
was gonna say they, a couple years ago they had this whole spat with Netflix about how they weren't gonna nominate any of its movies. And now they're like, oh, Netflix is like giving us the most content this year, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, I think I'm really interested to see how the Oscars are gonna be this year, just with everything that's happened. It's already gonna happen so much later than it usually does in the year. And I'm really just curious what kind of show they're gonna try and put on.
Yeah, same.
I think the last year's Oscars was pretty solid in its execution.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll be something like that. Anyways, if do you have a topic that you think we should look at, you can comment on our Facebook page or send us an email at sirensdenpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you again to our wonderful guest Luke for being on the show today.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. This was a lot of fun.
We'll let you know later who the winner is of this.
Make sure that you catch future and previous episodes on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, or wherever it is you get your podcasts.
Thank you to Tyra producer and Sean Thomas at thestudio.com for our theme song.
We'll catch you next time.
Until then, stay safe, everyone.
Bye.